Hello students, I am sure that you are keeping a good health and are busy in your revision work and also in your practice work of answering the important questions. So more you revise and more you practice, better you will perform in your exams. Always remember this and keep a good health because any disturbance in your health will hamper the preparations. So, with that, I am starting a discussion about a very important chapter, that is absorption by roots. This is especially for ICSE students because they have to study this separately in their syllabus. So, the important aspects you have to remember, students, I will more revise this chapter. That is, first part is what is the importance of water. So, firstly, in photosynthesis, without water, photosynthesis cannot take place, so plants cannot survive. Secondly, in transpiration, water is continuously evaporated from the leaves, so it is keeping them cool even in hot weather. Thirdly, all the important substances along with minerals are transported by water through all parts of the plant. Fourthly, the stiffness is provided by water only to the plant cells. This is the first part you have to remember in this chapter, and the second part is how the roots are adapted or suited for absorption of water. So they are suited because they are having a greater surface area. The roots are having enormous surface area. If you pick up even a small plant like balsam, a garden plant, you will find a bunch of rootlets, and each rootlet is having enormous root hairs. If you lay down the root hairs end to end, it will be of some kilometers. So this surface area, greater surface area, is helping them to absorb water and minerals sufficiently and efficiently. Secondly, in the root hair, the solution is highly concentrated. That means water is less, minerals are more. The solute is more when compared to that in the soil. In the soil, the solution is diluted because water is more and the solutes are less. In the space, in that particular space where the plant is, the solution is diluted in the soil. So, water from its higher concentration is moving to its lower concentration through the semi-permeable membrane, through the process of osmosis. So, solution is diluted outside. That means what? Water is in higher concentration and solution is concentrated inside the root hair. That means what? That means water is at lower concentration, solutes are more, that is why the solution is concentrated. So this specific feature is there, so naturally water is absorbed easily. Thirdly, the wall of the root hair is very thin and the cell membrane is semi-permeable, so it is allowing only substances selectively to pass through and to come out. It may allow water to come out, it allows the water to get in or to enter, and also can allow it to come out, but it will not allow the bigger minerals, the molecules, to come out. So this is the advantage of being semi-permeable, the cell wall being semi-permeable, the cell membrane, and the cell wall is freely permeable, so anything can pass into and pass out through the cell wall, but the cell membrane is semi-permeable, and that is why it allows substances to pass through and to pass out selectively. The biggest advantage, as I said, it will not allow the bigger important minerals to pass out of the cell. So these are the three features which make the roots best suited for absorption of water and mineral. And then you have to remember the processes, children. So what are the processes in this phenomenon, absorption of water and minerals? The processes are imbibition, diffusion, osmosis, active transport, and turgidity and flaccidity. So you have to remember what is meant by imbibition, what is meant by all these processes. So imbibition means the plant cell are having special affination for water due to surface attraction. This is called the imbibition. So there are some substances which are having a special affinity to water. Sometimes we see swollen wooden frame around the doors. So in moist weather, the frame or the wooden part of the doors, they swell because they catch moisture. They are by imbibition. Similarly, the plant cells also are having special affinity to moisture or water. So by imbibition also absorption of water takes place. Secondly, it is diffusion. It is the movement of water or solute or gas from a higher concentration, from their higher concentration to lower concentration, to their lower concentration. That is called diffusion. So all this movement of water cell to cell is because of diffusion. So diffusion is a very common process by which the water is being absorbed and it is passed through the root cells from higher concentration, from its higher concentration to its lower concentration. And then osmosis. Osmosis is the process of diffusion only through a semi-permeable membrane. That means the flow of water will be from its higher concentration to its lower concentration, but in between there will be one semi-permeable membrane. So this is osmosis. So osmosis is very important for the entry of water into the root hairs, because mostly it is because of osmosis only it is happening. When it is because of osmosis, water is entering into the cell, it is endoosmosis. When it is going out of the cell because of osmosis, it is exoosmosis. So these are the kinds of osmosis, students, endo and exo osmosis, that you have to remember. And then active transport, students. Sometimes what happens, bigger molecules of minerals are not able to enter the root hair. So from their lower concentration to their higher concentration, they are moving inside the root hair cell. This is called active transport, and in this process the energy is required, higher energy is required, which is obtained from the cell only. So movement of the bigger molecules from their lower concentration to their higher concentration is called active transport. So these are the processes involved in the phenomenon of absorption by root. And then comes your turgidity and flaccidity, students. Turgidity and flaccidity are also very important in this chapter particularly. Before that, we will also discuss about the osmotic pressure. Osmotic pressure is of a solution is measure of its tendency to take in water by osmosis. It is a measure, osmotic pressure, it is the measure of a solution, measure of the affinity of a solution to take water by the process of osmosis. So this is osmotic pressure, and then your comes your turgidity and flaccidity. So turgidity, water is entering into the cell, and it is when the cell is not able to retain any more water, the water will exert pressure on the cell wall, and the cell wall will put pressure on the content of the cell. So that is called the wall pressure. So after this, this is called the turgidity. When cell reaches a state where it cannot accommodate any water, that is, it is fully distended, it is called turgid, and the condition is called turgidity. The pressure of the cell contents on the cell wall is called the turgor pressure. This you have to remember, student. When turgid, the cell is in somewhere balanced state. So turgidity is also very important to keep the cell in a balanced state. And what happens in plasmolysis and flaccidity? When a living cell, such as the cell of a leaf of an aquatic plant, is placed in fresh water, it remains in a fully distended condition. Its plasma membrane remains in close contact with the cell wall and presses against it, just like a rubber bladder of a football pushing against the leather casing. If this plant cell is now kept in 5% salt solution for a few minutes, it will lose its distended appearance. Because the concentration outside has increased, so the water will come out. The cytoplasm will shrink. The cytoplasm will shrink, and the plasma membrane will withdraw from the cell wall. This shrinkage from the cell wall is called plasmolysis, and the cells in the state are said to be flaccid. Flaccidity is the reverse of turgidity. Students, this you have to understand. So there are some practical significances of this also. Plasmolysis in practice, salting of meat or addition of salt to pickles is a method of killing bacteria by plasmolysis. Water is drawn out of the bacterial cells. Weeds can be killed in a playground or playground by sprinkling excessive salts around their base. Excessive application of fertilizers in the agriculture fields may similarly damage the roots and diminish the yield. So these experiments or the practical aspects also you have to remember, students. And this is all about the chapter your absorption by roots. Absorption by roots. And there are some few more portions in your chapter. Those are root pressure. So cell-to-cell osmosis is creating a pressure which is called the root pressure. In small plants, root pressure are sufficient for your transportation of water and minerals in the plant. But higher trees and plants cannot, their root pressure cannot be sufficient. So root pressure is also important, but especially for small plants, where the root pressure only is pushing the water and minerals upwards through this to the shoot system. I am reading some of the lines. Root pressure is built up due to a cell-to-cell osmosis in the root tissue. As one turgid cell presses the next cell, the force of the flow of water increases inward, which water reaches when water reaches the xylem vessel placed vertically, centrally placed vertical channels. It enters the pores of their thick walls with considerable force. Thus, the root pressure is one of the forces to raise water up. Just now I said this. So, these are the small parts that are there in this chapter, but important parts I have already discussed. So you have to go through these experiments that has been given in your book, students. Questions can come from these experiments. So please read them, understand them properly, and you will be able to answer all the questions from this chapter. With this, I am ending. I am closing this chapter. We'll come with some other chapters for revision. Thank you so much.